Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. In this ambience of good governance and a call to adhere to established procedures and norms, we have joining us this morning Mr. Gunaruan, famously the former secretary at the Transport Ministry and with a history of serving at the railways and so on. Very good morning to you, Mr. Gunaruan.
Good morning.
And thank you for being on Newsline.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Gunaruan, you've served a long time in public service, and you've served at the railways. You've served at the Ministry of Transport. In your career, how mindful have you been of adhering to the procedures, the laid down procedures in terms of providing service, in providing in the procurement process, indeed in the planning process as well? How mindful have you been of the need to adhere to rules?
I don't think there is any alternative. If we are good governors, if you're good public servants, if you are to deliver what the people expect in this country, I think there is no alternative than following the procedures laid down.
Right.
One might say that the procedures may contain you in a kind of a framework and which restricts your flexibility. But leaving it to arbitrary decisions by individuals would put the transparency in peril. So I consider procedures, however much they may be taking time or they may be a bit at times rigid, it's good to follow the procedures. Then you are safe, and the people working with you are safe, and also the public interests are safe.
So at what point would you say, drawing on your vat of experience, Dr. Gunaruan, what would you say causes people to deviate? Why? Is there one prime overriding cause always?
Well, there can be many reasons. I think the most commonly spoken today among the reasons is the self-interest, and sometimes it may be also interference from external forces.
When you mean external forces, what do you mean?
It can be from the business lobbies, it can be from the political lobbies, it can be from even within the organizations themselves.
But isn't it fair to say that if we look at the corporate world, the business lobbies, as you say, isn't it their job to lobby their corner, to promote their product, to promote their service? That is their job. But
well, that is why the procedures are there. Right. So if the procedures are properly laid down and if they are in place, it's up to the bureaucracy and the public sector management to follow those and then attempt targeting the delivery of goods. That's
so what you're saying is, even if there is, and there will always be the lobbying, the people responsible for making the decisions should
adhere to the principles and the procedures. Yes, right. Yes. There's no alternative to that.
And then, how does one mix the need of, let's say, your minister, for example, whichever ministry, obviously because of the way our political framework is in place, without without any rules leading to electoral funding, for example. How does a ministry secretary or the chairman of a procurement committee or a tender board, how do they balance the needs of a donor who has been supportive of the government, of that minister perhaps? How do you balance that with their expectations?
According to the procedures and rules, the decision maker, the bureaucracy and the public officers will not have an excuse, even if it is ministerial orders, to violate the procedures.
So basically no mitigating circumstances.
No mitigating circumstances. I consider it supreme that you follow the good governance principle, and within the framework set by the procedures, you can go to the limits of it, but don't cross the lines. Because the moment you cross the lines, then only you you expose yourself to various amounts of interferences, including political and business lobbies and other things. So if you stay within the framework, you are safe. I agree with you that one of the plights of public servants today, as I understand, is the ministerial political pressures coming in. As you said very rightly, most of the present day political authorities, they are very self-centered. Their objective is to winning the next election, and for which they would want to probably have their territory strengthened by way of appointing their people into the organizations, and also by way of collecting some money for the next election campaign. Well, that may be their objective. There are certain procedural things which we may have to change in the future to even prevent that. But even within the current procedures and the rules and regulations, the bureaucracy has to say no, that's all. If they are strong to say no, and if they are self-conscious, tells them, look, what the order of the minister is wrong, and it violates the procedure, there is no alternative to the bureaucracy and to the public management to violate that.
But in your own experience, Dr. Gunarwan, how easy has it been to stand up to your minister? After all, as the Secretary of the Ministry, you are really the person in charge. The minister is almost a sort of executive chairman, if you like. But you are the professional, you are there, you have been trained, you've gone through a process of qualification with the SLAs and so on. So you are the pro. How practical is it for you to stand up when you have children and you have your mortgage and your rent and your car leasing and all these things that you have to pay, and it all comes not from some corrupt slush fund, but from the money that you earn from an honest day's work, a responsible day's work? So how do you stand up?
Well, I don't know how the others felt it. I have always done according to my conscience what is right and according to the procedures. If the ministers were giving orders or giving instructions otherwise, I have always said, sorry, I can't do it. That was my way. I may be a bit of
What do the ministers say when you... Don't tell me the names.
No,
what do you say?
I have never had any kind of undue pressure to me to say, do this. But it may be like that is why I did not survive in those positions long time. That may be the case. I would probably prefer to be out than being subversive and being in. That's it. That's my choice. So if I take that choice, I stay on my foot and I say, look, this is what I can do and not beyond that. They may make a decision to take me out and put someone else. You asked the right question. Now, I'm not an SLAS person. I'm not from the planning service or accountancy service either. I'm from the university. So I have always a fallback position. That may be why I'm strong here like this. You are right.
You're going on this notion that an education can never be taken away.
I think so. That's rightly the point. And also, the
knowledge is
king. That's right. And also the people who are in the public service and the bureaucracy, they might be finding it difficult for very reason that you mentioned. The families, the education of the children, and their only job. They might be finding it extremely difficult. I understand. I sympathize with them. What has to happen is this. It should be a culture that is being built. You have a set of procedures which protects you. Stick to that. And sometimes individually it may be a little difficult. But as a team of government servants, we stick into it. I think we should be able to manage it. That is one. Secondly, we should lobby for, taking out the management control of these institutions and ministries from the political authority. In other countries, mostly in the Western countries, the politician is a policy maker. They don't come into day-to-day management of organizations. That is why they are managing large ministries. They don't go to, decide on procurement of X, Y, or Z and appointing A, B, or C into organizations. That's not their purview. And which is very wrong. which is wrong to interfere by the side of the politician to day-to-day management organizations. So we should probably lobby with the good governance principles that you should probably further improve these rules, regulations and procedures so that the ministerial interference into day-to-day management of organizations is kept at bay.
Is it easier said than done?
Maybe, but it can be done.
Now, for example, let's cast our minds back to some months ago. We had various public officials or in public positions who've been hauled up and questioned by various authorities like the FCID, the CID, Pressifac and so on, the Bribery Commission and so on. Now, on the premise that these people have been doing their job, we've had people who've been told by their political masters. In fact, I don't know whether there is any space for political masters here, but anyway, politicians have ordered this money and that money and so on. What would have happened if these officials at the time said, no, listen, I can't do that. It's out of off-market or off the
Probably they would have been taken out from the positions.
But what happens to the leasing payments, the rental payments, the school fees, the medical fees?
Well, one advantage is there for the public servants, which I as a university academic do not have.
Yeah.
Which is, however much you are taken out from the position, the post, say, for example, if it's secretary post or the general manager railway post or some other department's head post or whatever, your public service position cannot be taken out. So your salary cannot be taken out. Your perks associated with your public service position cannot be taken out. So I consider in that way the public service, the administrator, the official is much more protected and screened away from the interferences and other things. He can be strong. If he really wants to, he can be strong. Today what may be happening is that these bureaucrats also wanting to go and be in good books of the politicians, maybe letting this happen and then accommodate the political pressures, and this is what they are facing at the end.
Once a mistake has been made, or once, say, somebody has bowed down, almost cowed down to pressure from a senior person, like let's take the lot of a ministry secretary. You have a minister. Well, your job is secure. You can be transferred. You probably won't get the sack, but you'll be bothered. They'll be to transfer you to somewhere else and so on. But you won't lose your job. But once, let's say that you have somehow been coerced or forced into a compromising situation, what can you do thereafter? Does it all end when you say, look, I'm terribly sorry?
My view is, either you are totally out of it or you are fully in it. There is no middle path. The first move that you go into compromise, you are caught in that.
And that's it?
And that's it. Because that is used against you to say, okay, you go the next inch, otherwise I will use this against you. The moment you cross the line in the first instance, you are caught. So my advice to the bureaucrats, my advice to the people who are really interested in good governance and their self-safety, don't go even that first inch. Stick to the rule, stick to the regulation, and don't do if it is violating regulation.
And have faith.
That's it.
Keep calm.
Keep calm.
And carry on.
And if there is anything against you unduly done, go to the recourse of justice. That's what you should do. Because it is your duty by the people of this country. And they are the ones who are paying your salaries and perks, not the political masters. In this country there is a notion, implicit thing that all these things are done by politicians. They go and open plaques and they go and flag trains departing and they go and do all these, opening ceremonies and all. And there's a notion going in that, these politicians do all these things for us. No, it's public money, tax money, people's things. So, the duty of the bureaucrat, the duty of the official is to do justice to that money, the resources of the poor man, the taxpayer, and the public of this country.
Each year, several hundreds, perhaps thousands, of young people, like you say, you're a product of the university, leave academia and join the government service. What is your advice to these young people as they embark on what clearly you are saying is such an essential role in the development, in the march forward of any country, of our country?
I think we are getting into a kind of a much more complex side of the story. There are a few questions I ask as an academic.
Yeah.
Whether the public service is the right place for our academic, our students to get into. That's number one, with the present setting. If good governance is seriously interested, I don't feel like they are interested. With the past 2 years, the experience that I see, the way that the violation of procedures that are going on, where the procurements are being made without competitive tenders being called, and following probably the same or even worse than the situ that we saw before January 2015. And you might probably be aware already that we have slid down in our corruption index last year compared to 2014. 2015 apparently is worse. It has gone down to about the levels of about 2012. With that kind of a setting and ever increasing interference by these various parties, I really don't know whether the public service is the right place for our products of the universities to go in. But if that is so, if that is so, I would probably want the best products to get into the public service. That is how Singapore evolved. That is how Singapore developed. Singaporean public service attracted the best brains from the academia and from the universities coming out. For that they paid very high salaries. But they got only the cream. They did not recruit masses to the public service. Now our public service is lopsided because it is being treated as a job agency. And you recruit numbers, but not giving the right amount of advantage by way of perks and salaries, so that you don't get the brains into the public service. That is, kind of archaic, because you cannot manage the brains in the private sector or the business sector with the second or third class people getting into the public sector. So if you really want to manage the country's affairs, for heaven's sake, get the best brains to the public sector, for which public sector has to have a certain set of the discipline, the decency, and the flexibility and freedom to operate without interference. And that kind of structure unfortunately is absent today, and that is why I consider I question whether public service is the right place for our products of the universities to get in.
But you talk of Singapore, but in Singapore I think what needs to be appreciated also is that they had strong dynamic leadership.
That's right.
We had Lee Kuan Yew.
That leadership gave the direction, because people's mandate given to the politicians is to lead the country and set the policies. What Lee Kuan Yew did was, he set the policies and got the right people, the professionals, and gave the free hand for them to deliver according to the vision that he has given. Here, unfortunately, what is happening in this country is that the minister starts deciding everything. One good example was the recent resignation of the Director General of Wildlife Department. Only 2 months he stayed in the ministry, and he was disgusted and he resigned.
He couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, he just left. That kind of a professional, I don't think you can find in Sri Lanka for Wildlife Department. He is one of the best that we had in our country.
But there was a time when Sri Lanka had a good public service workforce. What happened?
The same thing that I told you. Increasingly, the interferences have come in, and the procedures have been, kind of leaking, and then the free hand of the strength of the public servant the government servant to operate in the right way was weakening, and then this is the plight of it. If we are really serious about the country's progress, it is not shrinking the government which should work, strengthening the government which should work. One of the biggest problems I saw is this salaries and cadre structure, where it is there is a norm now today that the public service salaries has to be 1:4.2 maximum, the difference. So the PN is, if the PN is earning 1 rupee, the secretary can earn only 4.2 rupees. Now this kind of a bracket, you cannot induce the kind of encouragement and the incentive to perform. I mean, after 30-40 years in public service, you're getting 45,000, 50,000 salary. Maybe there are certain other perks, that may be the case, but why are you? How can you be encouraged to be that? I think there is a structural change needed. Structural change, not to sell out
and
the
systemic change.
Systemic change is needed. It is not to sell out the public property or shrink the government or whatever, as we may call in neoliberal economic policies, and depend entirely on FDI or private sector and foreigners coming in and the consultants and all. But strengthening the public service, getting the right people and putting them into right track and setting the procedures. For example, the good governance was the good governance promise in 2015 January that they would be establishing a National Procurement Commission. We are still waiting to see where the National Procurement Commission is.
But that's the whole problem, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's about waiting.
It's waiting and it's inaction. And then who is responsible? And if we are talking about an ordinary government servant, that he is responsible for inaction. Now those people who are responsible in appointing the National Procurement Commission and their inaction, shouldn't we take action against them?
Good. And also, what about the amount of time that is wasted in trying to justify out of procedure actions? Because there will be inquiries, there will be appearances before court and parliamentary debates and all this, all which could have been simply avoided.
That's right. You're 100% right. Prevention is better than cure. And planning is much better and much more economical and effective than trying to do postmortems as to what went wrong.
Yes, postmortems are always difficult.
Yes, I am not saying postmortems are not important. They are important as lessons to learn for the future. But what is happening today is we forget the planning and the strategizing and doing things right in the beginning. We talk about following up action and inquiries and disciplinary procedures and things like that. I think that is also there is also imbalance in that. We should focus more on doing things right, setting the institutional framework, setting the procedures so that the derailments can be avoided. For example, why can't the government and the top bureaucracy in the country and the top leadership in the country issue a simple directive, as what they were campaigning in the election platform in 2015 January? No more public procurement without open competitive bidding, and no more giving projects and things to foreign contractors unless such cannot be turned out locally with the local enterprise. I mean, these were the two basic principles for which the engineers and the professionals and the others were fighting, and they put this government into power. Now, unfortunately, those are the very things which are being not looked into. So the whole country is waiting for the good governance principles of this government to take place.
Don't you get the feeling that the ordinary people, that the people are tired of waiting? They've been waiting generations. Some have been waiting a lifetime.
I agree. That's the pathetic story of this country. And every time we go for a change, it looks like it went for worse than for good. So, I mean, we are waiting also to see when these promises and pledges are truly adhered to and followed. And the day that we see that, the country might be back on track in the right way.
Do you know, Dr. Munaran, you remind me of a citizen of Sri Lanka who speaks like this, who has all that one can want materially, but whose passion is remarkably similar to you. And I don't know whether you know them or know him, but you have suddenly it suddenly struck me that you are talking like this other person that we know.
Who is that person?
Unfortunately, I can't. I'll tell you after we go off air,
right?
Because he's rather a private person. But yes. But I just want to drag you into this thing. Not to drag you in, but just to comment. And it's the bond matter, the central bank bond matter. Here we have a parliamentary watchdog who says that the former governor is responsible for whatever it is that happened. We then have a prime minister who says in parliament that he ordered the change of the system of awarding bonds. Now we have the Monetary Law Act, which has always been there. And the Monetary Law Act is rather specific as to who runs the central bank. And it is the decisions of the Monetary Board of Sri Lanka, where the governor is the chairman of that board. But decisions on how the central bank will work emanates from decisions of the Monetary Board. It appears to us that this is all very black and white. Instead, we have a new club called the Footnote Members Club. They have put footnotes to this COPE report. They have, it's almost a travesty. And then you have all sorts of unfocused things happening. Why on earth can't they just get down to it and say, listen, he made a mistake, he did this, and then try and solve the problem? Why all this time? It's taken 18 months, for heaven's sake, to get to this stage, and it's only just starting.
Well, I really don't know to comment on in detail what happened in the central bank.
No.
But
as a member of the public,
it is a shame. It's a shame to watch what went through when this allegation was made.
Yeah.
And attempts to cover it up and prolongation, and the president himself went in public in August and said that he wished the central bank governor be removed. In his address to the public somewhere in August 2015, he said that.
And the other thing, Dr. Gunrawan, is what a lot of people are missing is that all that time and effort spent on obtaining that first COPE investigation or the observations led by Dio Gunasekara, that has never come out.
That's right.
And most of these, I'm told that some of the verbatings will come out because the oral evidence was made under oath. But there was no need for this long period to come up with a second COPE report.
It's very clear that there was a lobby to cover it up. Well, without talking about it, let me again come back to the good governance principle in this. It was these good governance lobbyists who claimed, not us, even when we were in the bureaucracy, we heard that. Under good governance principles, those who manage the affairs would assume the responsibility and resign if something goes wrong within their purview. So they were even talking about, I don't consider that a derailment of a train, the transport minister should resign. Or even, later lost the post and telecommunication minister should resign. I don't think. They can always find out the culprits and go through the procedure. But if serious things do happen, in other countries we saw the responsible officers, the secretaries and then the ministers resigning. Whatever said and done, these things were claimed and pledged and then lobbied for by the present administration when they were in the opposition. So why can't they practice it now? No,
what's different?
Exactly. No,
what is different?
It's not happening.
In your life, in the last few seconds of our program, in your life in public service, would it be fair to say that your mantra has been least cost, least risk, maximum benefit?
As far as the decisions I made within my purview, because in the public service individuals cannot make decisions, there are committees to make decisions, procurement committees, technical committees. Within my purview, what I made as decisions, and I took part as public decision making, I have always made it, the norm is to follow the procedure with the objective of maximizing the net benefits. That means maximum benefits and minimum cost to the public resources and public ownership. That's what I have done.
Dr. Lalitasri Gunarwan, thank you very much for being on Newsline. And I leave you with a thought to ponder. Is 11 billion small change when procedure has been violated? Do think on that. Let us know what you think. Have a great day ahead. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
Newsfirst, Newsline.